we're going to talk about 5 things that you can do to add new depth, add new techniques, add new approaches to your music, your songwriting. If you do these 5 things, you will be able to add new songwriting skills. And these things are separate activities, but they are indeed songwriting skills. Now, the trouble with something like songwriting is that at first glance, it might kind of seem a bit more ethereal, almost. Like, oh, I want to get better at guitar. Well, you practice these scales, and here's these chords, and here's this book with exercises. And while there are books on songwriting and everything, the process doesn't seem so much clear, cut and dry. If you do this, this will make it better. So sometimes when you're starting out, that kind of idea isn't always readily available for you to take advantage of. Spicy in here. So, let's talk 5 steps to add new songwriting skills. So, number 1, collaborate with other musicians. You know what works well for you. When you get into another working situation with another songwriter or musician, and you get to not only see the other side of it and how they approach songwriting or certain things, maybe they have certain cliches or certain habits that they tend to use stylistically in their songwriting. And you get to sit, a back seat and see what it is they're doing. Be able to kind of adapt that into your playing. But beyond that, whoopsies. Hitting the damn microphone here. Beyond that, it is your own work ethic, work style, songwriting style, musical style, meeting another's and balancing and finding ways that they can kind of interact and make a yin-yang with each other. Collaboration is such a... it kind of was used as like a really cheap, almost marketing tool, just like, oh, these 2 people together. And while it does give a boost for both people if they're doing the right things, and they got a good active fan base, introduce each other to your communities and your groups. From a pure writing standpoint, being able to take your process as something a bit more flexible and take it to work, take it to battle, almost like friendly sparring with somebody else's style, because you might learn a lot, you might, be able to take something new away, or even find out something about your own writing that you never really thought about, because you're seeing it through someone else's interaction with you, which I think is really, really, it's a lot of fun, and it's interesting as well. So that's number 1, collaborating. Number 2, you need to practice active listening. Now, if you haven't really heard of that before, maybe you're like, what? I listen. I hear things. I put music on. Like, I got ears, and they work. I tested them. But there is a really big difference between just like hearing some music and actively listening to what is going on. There was a lot of time in a lot of different classes that it was legitimately expected. You sit and you listen and you try and dissect everything that's going on in the tune. and listen for things maybe that are hidden or not easily heard unless you're looking for them. So this kind of, I guess, boost in your engagement in the listening process can be a huge, huge skill. Because now you're not just listening to your favorites and kind of poking around. And you're not, I'm going to write some songs and you end up just basically ripping it off because you only know the surface level stuff. This is about really figuring out what's going on, what's at work. You start training your ear, and maybe not in like a serious ear training sense, where you're picking out what key it's in and what chords and inversions they're using and stuff. And let me tell you, it's not impossible. It's a lot of work, but it can be done. But beyond that, it's about, okay, so, what do I like about this specific rhythm? How is it playing against the rhythm of this other instrument? Oh, that's a really interesting chord. What was that? What's happening in the melody there? Let's try and figure that out. What is it? Oh, this run, this lyrical run here, a really good rhyme scheme kind of thing, and the meter of the lyrics is really good. I'm gonna kind of write that down just so I can take a look at it, and when you're actively listening, you can't just be a consumer of content anymore. You're a creator now. I that's always something that I'm going to keep saying, because you have a responsibility to keep progressing and to keep getting better, because that's how you're going to stay relevant. That's how you're going to find more fans. That's how your fans are going to appreciate being taken on a journey with you. So you don't have the luxury to just mindlessly consume content all the time. Those days are gone. You need to free up all that time so that you can be improving. So, obviously enjoy, listen, have fun with your music and everything, but you got to be making time to really tear these things apart and analyze them and find out what you like. And even if there's stuff that you don't like, try and find out why. What is it about it that you don't like, and how you would take it and adapt it and improve upon it. That's number 2. Number 3, incorporating new sounds and ideas. So obviously, new, yeah, try new things. Cool advice, good wisdom, internet guy. But this is kind of an offshoot of the previous one, where you're listening and you're finding cool little, oh, that's a really good nugget of information up on the music tree. I'm gonna reach up and pick it. Now you're taking something and you gotta do something with it, and that can be a lot harder, and it can be a lot more frustrating than you might expect, because you really need to take time with an idea or a concept and get comfortable with it. That was a mistake that I made a lot in music school, because, oh, cool, crazy new chord. Or we're talking about whole tone scales. Well, I'll write a song that's got big augmented chord sections, but I can't play over it. And I couldn't solo. It was kind of embarrassing. It's okay, we're going to need more time to figure this song out, because this is still a really new idea. But that doesn't mean don't, leap right into these situations. But because it was that experience of doing something with it, realizing that I didn't know what I was doing, that forced me to kind of find ways to adapt it. We're taking the lesson and turning the knowledge into wisdom. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. So finding that way to internalize, take that new stuff that you're learning about and actually incorporating new sounds, new ideas into your writing and into your music. Because with music, these things are not like, it's only this. This is this and that's that. Nothing more. There are so many different uses for everything. And that's kind of the fun about it, is trying to find different ways you can combine ideas and concepts and sounds. And you don't know unless you try. So you gotta kind of give yourself permission to be that mad scientist. Just go to town. Experiment. See what happens. So, number 3. Now we're at number 4. Learning songs by memory. Memorize songs. I was always really bad for this. I never felt confident without having that stuff there in front of me so I could look. But when you memorize and internalize, it becomes second nature. And beyond that, the actual workings of it becomes a part of you. When you memorize a jazz standard, which looking at a chart seems daunting, there's lots of chords, they're all over the place, it's changing keys, so you got to figure that stuff out. But in the process of memorizing it, you have to figure out a way to successfully navigate the song. And once you do that, now you're in a playing position where you can play it, and you play it comfortably, and you can do more with it. Because again, it's the absorbing of the knowledge that becomes the practicality of wisdom. So to be able to get up and sit in with a band, and they call a tune, and you know it well enough, and now you're making it your own, well, obviously the next step is taking all that stuff that you are doing by memorizing tunes and now applying it into your own songwriting and playing. It's not just looking at a book and saying, oh, okay, this, and this, these chords go together. Well, how? Why? What can you do with them? Like, what situation? Could you turn it into a different key? Like, put it somewhere else? Could you change some of the chords around? Like, you have to be able to take things and adapt. And memorizing songs is a really good process because you can't just look at the bare minimum stuff. You can't just memorize the shapes. That story of me failing at the guitar exam. And the teacher said I was just memorizing the shapes. I don't actually know it. I don't know the music. You know? So when you learn the song and you memorize the song, it's not just, oh, C, D, G, whatever. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes. And the 5th one, using frameworks. I'm a huge proponent of this. You're taking some kind of set, oh, we're going to have this kind of song structure. It's going to go in this way. Or we're going to use these types of chords for this song. Or we're going to try and write over this kind of scale. Or, I don't know, maybe starting with some kind of chord progression formula, picking something at random, throwing a few chord progression things that work together and seeing what you can come up with. Available now at chordprogressionsbook.com. MFile.ca. But the thing is, when you use frameworks, it's something loose. It's a structure that gets you pointed in the right direction. Where you go from there is completely up to you. But being able to start solving a problem, now your brain is in overdrive. And it'll take you to places using that added creativity boost of problem solving that you would not have been able to reach had you just started trying to write. So, 5 awesome skills to level up your songwriting. Collaborate with other musicians. Practice active listening. Incorporating new sounds and ideas. Learning songs by memory. And using frameworks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You even took just one of those things, your songwriting would get better almost instantly because you'd be hearing or experiencing or learning new things on the spot. If you want to learn more about any of the topics discussed on today's episode, or if you'd like to expand your horizons so you can make the most amount of impact with your music, please be sure to check us out at mfile.ca.